Everyone turned away from the dying man on the station bench, except her. Caroline, a mail-order bride in a hand-sewn blue dress, walked straight toward him, knelt down, and whispered, "You're coming with me." He was coughing blood, barely breathing. No one helped, but she did not hesitate. She had come to marry a wealthy rancher. Instead, she found a stranger who should not have been there. And what happened next would uncover a buried secret that changed her life forever. The wind whipped through Dustwood's empty station as the train screeched to a halt. Caroline stepped off, clutching a worn suitcase and a photograph, her heart pounding. She had traveled 1,000 miles to marry a man she had never met. His name was Jonathan Blackwell, a widowed rancher, wealthy, 42, no children. He had written her with kindness and a promise, "You will never be alone again." But the platform was empty. No man, no carriage. Just the faint smell of smoke, old leather, and something sour in the wind. Then she saw him. A man slumped on a wooden bench, his chest rising in painful, jerky breaths. His coat was torn, his face gaunt. He looked like a man left to die. Caroline froze. His eyes were the same deep green as the photo in her hand, but the man in that photo had been strong, proud, standing tall beside a black stallion. This man was broken. The station master muttered from inside, "He's been out there 3 days. No one will go near him." She ignored him. Caroline stepped forward, her boots crunching over gravel. The man looked up through sunken eyes. "You should go," he rasped. "I'm not the one you're waiting for." She knelt beside him. Slowly, she pulled the photo from her pocket and held it up. "Are you Jonathan Blackwell?" He coughed violently, blood spattering onto his sleeve. Then he closed his eyes. She had a choice. She could wait for someone who might never come, or she could save a man everyone else had abandoned. Her decision was silent but fierce. She took off her gloves, slid his arm over her shoulder, and pulled him to his feet. Gasps came from behind. Someone said, "Carl, are you mad?" Caroline's voice was steady. "You're coming with me." She paid a nearby farmhand to load him into a wagon and rode out toward the hills. The small cabin she arrived at was supposed to be her marital home. Now it was a battlefield between life and death. She boiled water, cleaned his wounds, sat by his side for hours. He never said a word, but sometime after midnight, he gripped her hand, and in a low, shaking voice, he said, "I never wanted you to see me like this." Caroline's breath caught, because she was still not sure. Was this the man who wrote her those letters, or had she just brought a dying stranger into her home? Please subscribe to my channel for the next part of this story and more emotional, powerful stories like this one. Caroline did not sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a wool shawl, listening to the man's ragged breathing beside her. The fire cracked softly. The kettle whistled once, then went silent. But inside her, a storm was building. Who was he really? Was he Jonathan Blackwell, the man who wrote her letters filled with kindness and promises? Or had she just taken home a dying stranger and risked everything? At sunrise, she wiped his forehead with a damp cloth. He stirred and blinked slowly. His eyes were clearer now, less glassy, more aware. He said, "Water." She held the tin cup to his lips, her hands trembling as he drank. When he finished, he coughed again, less violently this time, and turned his head slightly. "You should have left me at the station," he whispered. He said, "You should have left me at the station," voice low and cracked. Caroline shook her head. "I was not raised to leave people to die." He gave a weak, bitter laugh. "That makes one of us." She wanted to ask questions, so many questions, but instead she asked gently, "Are you Jonathan Blackwell?" He went silent. Then, slowly, he nodded. But something in his eyes made her doubt. It wasn't guilt, it was grief. She stood and crossed the room to retrieve the bundle of letters she had saved. Letters written by the same hand, full of hope and charm and talk of peach trees and sunsets over Cattleland. She held one up. "You wrote these." He closed his eyes. "I did." "But you look nothing like the photograph." "That photo was taken 12 years ago." She stared. She wanted to feel angry, betrayed even, but instead she felt a deep ache rising in her chest. "What happened to you?" she whispered. He opened his eyes, and this time they were filled with something raw, something honest. "I got sick, then I got tired, then I stopped hoping for anything." He coughed again and winced. "I never thought you would actually come." Caroline swallowed hard. "Then why send for me?" He said, "Because I was alone, and part of me wanted to believe someone might care enough to stay." His voice cracked on the last word, and Caroline understood. She had known that feeling all too well. She stood there, clutching the letters, unsure of what to say, but before she could speak, a shadow moved past the window. She froze. There it was again, just beyond the porch railing, a figure in a dark coat, watching. She rushed to the window and yanked the curtain aside, but the figure was gone. Heart racing, she turned to Jonathan. "Do you have enemies?" His jaw tightened. "You should not have brought me here." Before she could respond, a loud knock pounded on the cabin door. Boom! 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 A deep voice outside growled, "Open up! I know he's in there!" Caroline stepped back, blood draining from her face. Jonathan sat up weakly, eyes burning now with fear. He whispered, "You need to hide me now." The knocking came again, louder this time. Boom! 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 "Open this door, miss! I ain't got all day!" Caroline froze, her fingers still gripping the faded curtain. Her heart thundered in her chest as Jonathan tried to push himself upright on the bed, groaning in pain. "Who is it?" she whispered. He did not answer. The door shook under another heavy fist. This time the voice growled, "You got 10 seconds before I take this door off its hinges." Jonathan looked her dead in the eyes. "Please, hide me. Do not let him in." Without another word, Caroline rushed forward and helped him out of the bed. His legs barely held him up. She dragged him toward the pantry, only a small space, but it had a back wall and no windows. As she closed the wooden door behind him, he grabbed her wrist. "No matter what he says, do not believe him." She stared at him. "Who is he?" But before he could answer, boom! The front door burst open. A man in a long black duster stepped inside, his boots stomping across the wooden floor. His face was scarred, his eyes sharp, and around his neck hung a sheriff's badge, worn but visible. Caroline stepped between him and the rest of the cabin. He looked her over. "Name's Clay Maddox, Deputy Marshal out of Jackson County. I'm looking for a man named Blackwell. Goes by John or Johnny. You seen him?" Caroline kept her voice steady. "No one by that name here." Clay narrowed his eyes. "Strange. I tracked his blood trail from the station to this very cabin." She folded her arms. "Maybe your trail is wrong." He took a slow step forward. "Lady, the man I'm after's dangerous. Escaped a federal prison wagon 3 days ago. He's been shot, dying most likely, but he's not what he seems. I'd hate for a decent woman to get caught in his mess." Caroline blinked. "Federal prison wagon?" Clay nodded. "Bank fraud, identity theft. Stole another man's name and fortune. The real Jonathan Blackwell died 12 years ago." Her breath caught in her throat. "What did you say?" she whispered. "You heard me," Clay said.
Whoever wrote you them letters, he stole Blackwell's name, his land, his picture, and his life. That man's a fraud." She staggered back. Everything inside her twisted. The letters, the photograph, the stories of peach trees and sunsets. All lies? "I need to search this cabin," Clay said, pushing past her. But as he stepped toward the bedroom, a shotgun blast ripped through the air. It shattered the oil lamp on the wall and sent Clay stumbling back. From the shadows of the pantry door, Jonathan stood, barefoot, shaking, with an old rifle in his hands. "That's far enough, Marshal." Caroline screamed, "Stop! What are you doing?" Jonathan's voice was hoarse but sharp. "He is not a marshal. His name is Clay Maddox, and he is not here to arrest me." Caroline turned to Clay. His face had changed. The lawman act was gone. Now he looked furious. He wiped soot off his jacket and spat on the floor. "Well, looks like the lady chose her side." And then he said something that sent a chill down Caroline's spine. "You really think she'll still want you after she finds out what you did?" Caroline stood frozen between two men, one pointing a gun, the other hiding behind a badge. The man she nursed, the man she had trusted, might not even be Jonathan Blackwell. And the man claiming to be a marshal had just dropped his act like a curtain falling on a lie. Her voice trembled. "What did he do? What is he hiding?" Clay Maddox sneered. "Ask him about Missouri. Ask him what happened to the girl in the red shawl." She turned to Jonathan. His eyes closed. His hands lowered the gun. For a moment, he looked ready to surrender, not just to Clay, but to shame. "I never hurt her," he whispered. "I loved her." "You lied to her," Clay snapped, "like you're lying to this one." "I ran because your brother wanted me dead, because I knew what your family did. She died because of you." Caroline could barely breathe. Jonathan lowered the gun entirely and turned to her. His voice cracked. "My real name is Elias Turner. I worked for the Blackwell family 12 years ago. When Jonathan died of fever, her mother paid to bury the truth. She told me if I kept quiet, she'd give me land, a future. But she never kept her promise. She took everything, left me for dead." Tears welled in his eyes. "So I wrote those letters as Jonathan, not to steal, not to trick you. I just wanted someone to believe in me again." Her chest tightened. She could feel it, the pain behind his words, the desperation, the loneliness. It was real. She turned to Clay. "Why are you really here?" He laughed coldly. "Because Elias Turner saw something he was not supposed to see 12 years ago, and now he's hiding behind your pity." He pulled a revolver under his coat. "I came to finish what should have been done back then." But Caroline stepped in front of Elias. "Then you will have to shoot through me," she said firmly. Clay hesitated, just long enough. Elias dropped to one knee and grabbed the shotgun again. Boom! The blast rang through the cabin. Clay stumbled back, blood on his sleeve. He cursed and ran, vanishing into the woods like a coward. The silence afterwards was deafening. Caroline fell to her knees beside Elias. His arm was bleeding, his body shaking. "You need a doctor," she cried. But he shook his head. "No, just stay." So she did. She stayed through the night, through the pain, through the truth. 2 weeks later, news came that Clay Maddox had been arrested in Jackson for impersonating a marshal and attempted murder. And Elias Turner, once a nameless worker buried under someone else's identity, was cleared of all charges. Caroline could have left, but she chose not to, because, in the end, she had not come to marry a name. She came searching for hope. And somehow, in a broken man's truth, she found it. One morning, as the sun broke over the hills, Elias placed something small in her hand, a ring. It was simple. No diamonds, no gold, just a band made of braided copper wire. It's not much, but it's real. She smiled through tears.